Swami Mahadevananda and Srinivasan from the New York Ranch conduct a question and answer period Friday, August 3rd, 2012.
Yajanam Buddhamagati Sahitam Kapita Jambovasara Bhakshitam Umasudam Shokavinashakaranam Namami Vigneshwara Parapankajam Sharanam Kumkumaraktavarnam Mahamadim Divyamayugavanam Rudrasya Sunam Surasanyanataam Goam Saram Sharanam Prapadye Ya Kundendu Tusharadvala Ya Shubhramasravida Ya Veena Bharadanda Mandirakara Ya Shveta Padmasana Ya Brahmanshila Shankara Pragadivir Eva Isara Ujita Samam Padu Saraswati Bhagavati Nishesha Jatyapa Om Namah Shivaya Gurave Satchidananda Murtaye Nishprapanchaya Shantaya Shri Shivanandaya Te Namaha Shri vishnu-devananda Te Namaha Om Sarva Mangala Mangalye Shive Sarvartha Sadike Sharanye Trayambake Gauri Narayani Namostute Narayani Namostute Om Shanti 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 Om Peace 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Namah Shivaya. So before we start, I'd like to introduce you Srinivasan, and it's an oldest disciple, direct disciple of Swami Vishnu, as well as the Acharya of the United States. So he has been here also director here for many years, okay? Now he directs the New York Ranch, so he will be here for a few days. Tomorrow probably Nadia Acharya Swami Srinivasan. So we can address any question about yoga, of course, that you'd like to hear. So please give a good hand to Srinivasan. So since it's a question and answer, so don't be shy. You look at each other. You're supposed to ask questions. Maybe I'll ask you a question. Why are you here? Anything you wanted to ask about yoga, but you never dared to ask, right? Let me get out. How many people met Swami Vishnu? Okay, very good. How many people read books about yoga, like CFY, Complete Illustrated Book of Yoga, something higher about Vedanta, how many, or Raja Yoga, how many people? Do you have a course going on that? ATTC will start Sunday, for Sunday.
How many people are here for ATTC?
ATTC, how many people are here? 1, 2, 3. Okay. How many people did not take TTC? How many people did not take teacher's training course?
Why not?
Why?
You have to start somewhere.
Huh?
You have to start somewhere and then you can develop.
Yeah, I started in 1968, you know.
But you did some yoga before you did your TTC.
Yes, I did.
Yeah, so it's good.
And I was vegetarian always. So any question that you want to know?
Anything about the ashram or about Swamiji?
Otherwise you're going to talk a long, long lecture on Vedanta. About Swami Vishnu, or life, to my surprise is actually, and that's why I'm asking some of the questions, that here in North America, as well in South America and Europe, people are more interested or went beyond the interest that they had about Hatha Yoga exercises. There is how to ask any questions about Raja Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Vedanta, etc., etc. That means that the level of awareness and consciousness is becoming more and more elevated. Like years ago, yoga was sitting in the bed on dates. Then yoga became doing a lotus position. Then yoga became doing the headstand. And today yoga is a little bit higher. People want to know more about the philosophy of yoga. They start to realize that this new consciousness, awareness, and probably that the only solution that we have to find a permanent solution to the problems of mankind right today is probably Vedanta, that has unity in diversity. So people want to know more and more and more and more and more. And Swami Shivananda was very clear in his message, especially to the West, that if the West today has to overcome all the problems that we have, and when I say problems, what we see or what the media tells us are just the tip of the iceberg, okay? The only solution is Vedanta. Why we find ourselves in this particular situation, socially, religiously, etc., etc. Do you know why? You ask yourself, why the world is not going so good today? For which reason? For which reason? Instead of getting better, getting worse, day by day, minute by minute. Why? Well, this is the main reason.
The system failure.
Huh?
The system failure. There's too many, in the system, from the education, from the way the government runs the country.
Yeah, from A to Z, from birth to cradle to death, it's we teach us all the time the wrong way, and it's getting worse and worse. But what is the main reason?
Because people are not listening to their heart.
That's one reason.
Selfishness.
What else?
Selfishness.
What else? It's deeper than that, and yet a simple answer.
Ignorance.
Yeah. Ignorance of what?
The natural, your nature.
Huh?
What's your nature?
The natural nature.
The ignorance, the fact from the social, political, religious leader is the fact that the mind can not and shall not solve the problems of mankind. Everybody is waiting for a golden age. Everybody is waiting for a new consciousness. Suppose the golden age comes tomorrow. How do you think it's going to manifest itself? Everything becomes gold? What does it mean, a new consciousness in the world? You're waiting for a golden age. What does it mean? Basically, is that the inner awareness of people about themselves, about life, about everything which surrounds us, has a deeper meaning, has a deeper vibratory level. This vibratory level, it makes us appreciate more and more religious values, spiritual values, and a little bit less material values. When we enough people in the world with a consciousness not directly simply to money or the Visa card, but to something higher, that's the beginning of new consciousness. Okay? But the real fact is that as long as we have the mind The mind always sets out, solve one problem, he creates 5. You solve 5 problems, you create 10. You solve 10, it's the nature of the mind to split things up. The mind cannot understand the whole. We call it God, we call it consciousness, whatever you want to call it. And that's the mistake from the Prime Minister to King and Queens all the way down to the line, that the mind, as it is today, cannot and shall not solve the problems. The only solution is create an infrastructure whereby men and women, and that's the aim of Swami vishnu-devananda, can develop intuition. And through the intuition, we can really solve some of the basic problems. Intuition sees the whole, and beyond the tip of the nose, beyond the mind, beyond the intellect, beyond the present, the past, and the future, beyond the social problems that we have now. The intuition goes beyond that, sees it a long distance, and then start to steer up society in that direction, whereby when the time comes, things start to get better. Otherwise, unless we change our direction rather drastically, the stupid mind created the mess in which we are for 20th century, and it's going to change anything just because it's called 21st century and the golden age is coming. Yeah, everybody talks the golden age. Fine, how is going to come the golden age? It's a deep change of awareness and a much deeper level of awareness, in which we still see men and women, race and country, and religion, etc., etc. But also we see a unity behind that we cannot do now, because we've been programmed to that I'm Roman Catholic, I'm this and that, I'm a male and female, I'm black and white and yellow, blah 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 blah. And as long as we continue this way, which is the mind, there will never be peace on earth.
I'm just thinking 50 years of this ashram and the work that Swamiji did, and what brought all of us here, brought all of us to Swamiji, was really awakening something within us, as Swamiji was saying about intuition. That I think it is intuition that is sleeping, that can be awakened, that Swami Vishnu was awakening, and that we're brought here by some spark within us that Swamiji was able to make crystal clear and to show that there is that unity in diversity. And this is an intuitive realization, because as Swamiji said, our minds just break everything up and are judging and prejudiced and get caught up in infatuation, and all of it. Our mind just wants to break things into pieces. But Swamiji was able to pull those pieces together and create this ashram and other centers and ashrams, which create an environment which supports the intuition, supports, as you said, opening the heart. What does it mean to open the heart? That you're in a place where you feel that connection. When the heart is open, we feel connected, and all of the noise and the ignorance and the prejudice that our mind creates that separates us is removed. And an ashram is really a place where you can feel safe to do that, because there is a discipline that's there. The yamas and niyamas are supporting a community to come together, and so that we can, with the hearts open, come together and really see that unity, experience that unity and diversity. And from this vision of peace, this experience of peace, there is a possibility of a golden age.
That was the main reason why Swami Vishnu started the TDC. At that time, we couldn't understand to create leaders of mankind having a world vision, maintaining at the same time unity in diversity. Okay. Unity means anybody can project on the screen of life any movie we want. But the unit is the screen. It never changes. It doesn't matter what project into it, It never changes, remains all the time the same. There's a love story, a hate story, there's a tsunami, there's a peace, there's war. We project into it. That's the diversity. But then we all know that we have the same soul, the same screen. When we start to look at ourselves and life from the same direction, then life could change in a better way. A new consciousness, new awareness, it can be done either through the heart or through the mind, according to our own nature. Some people find it easier through the heart, some people find it easier through the mind. Both ways are valid. Okay, whatever is easy for you, do it. And that can bring truly a new consciousness, and with a new consciousness, a new golden age. Okay? It's not miracle. It depends how Swamiji says, I have to change myself, you change yourself, and society will be changed. Okay? Provided we know how. On the 60s, with the hippies, etc., wonderful children, or the flower children, did not have an alternative. Today, thanks to Swami Shivananda and Swami Vishnu-devananda, we have a concrete, theoretical, as well as practical tools to be able to change ourselves. And if I change myself, everybody does it, society will be changed in a positive way.
Just coming back to the ashram, for me, there's just so many memories, but the memories are sattvic memories. They're memories which, what are the possibilities? And we look and see in the world so many problems that are there, but coming to the ashram, you see possibilities, you experience possibilities, you experience a whole history of possibilities that are manifest from your sadhana and from, again, the blessings of the Guru. But there's something that doesn't change. And just as the world changed, the ashrams changed. How many changes have you seen in the ashram in the last 40 years or so since you've been coming to the ashram? But in the midst of, and just at Swamiji's house, and even the changes in Swamiji's house, you can look externally, it's been beautified, the house, and the books have been arranged in different ways and that kind of thing. But the energy doesn't change. And,
the same.
And that which doesn't change is that heart of Vedanta. And that's what we need to find in ourselves. Coming to the ashram helps us to find that which doesn't change. Everything that's spinning around, all the dramas that we're living in, that create turmoil in our lives, come back to that point that doesn't change. And this ashram has really held that for the 50 years. I mean, I think this is 35 years that I've been coming, but it's a real blessing, this ashram.
So, what's the question now? Yeah. Give you a mic so that everybody can understand. People on the back, they might have a hard time to follow up what we're saying.
I would like to ask both of you, what was the lesson that Swami Vishnu gave you at the time you misunderstood and wondered why he asked you to do, and now that you understand it, and what a blessing it became?
You asking me or? Okay. Shall I start? Sure. Well, patience, that's one. Okay. When I first came, I was just a rolling stone, so to speak. And but I came with the idea that yoga was my life. That was very clear in my mind that it doesn't matter what was going to happen, that would stick to yoga. Of course, my determination is very relative. It was not for the Guru's grace, I call it. That would be impossible. So many things I learned. Probably appreciate more people. See life as more as it is. Okay, not the preconception or preconceived ideas that I had what life was. It really taught me a lot, and it still teaches me a lot. And that is what Vedanta does. It can be theoretical, but also it can be extremely practical. Try to see this truth in every person. Try to see beyond sex, age, country, and plus some kind of humility. Well, I'm still very macho, but a little bit of humility and understanding that some other people around me and are as good as me, maybe even better. Okay, so start to see, that's what Vedanta or yoga does, at least, because I can see on a personal level. It opens up to life, not to existence, not the little cocoon that I call myself. Yet to break it, and that's pretty, sometimes can be pretty, some suffering is there, okay? But once you break the cocoon, then you say, oh God, there is a life out there. It's not existence that used to be before, it's truly life. And you start to appreciate that very much. Okay?
Very similar. I think when I came here was when I first came. I came the day after Swamiji left, which was probably a blessing. And the ashram was completely a refuge for me. I'd gotten to the point where looking at the world was ending, and everything looked very dark. And questions how to bring the spiritual together with peace. And Swamiji came with such an enthusiasm and such a clarity in his decisions, even though he was able to change a decision, make a 180-degree change if it was necessary. Whatever Swamiji did, he did 100%. And did completely with his heart, and completely from a place of intuition. And I think I had a lot of fear around what possibilities were for the planet, and I was quite extreme, I think. And Swamiji saw that and put me in many different directions, allowed me to try things that I would have never tried without his encouragement. And Swamiji, impossible was not in Swamiji's vocabulary, and he expected it not to be in our vocabulary as well. So at least, if he asks you to do something, you should try it. But if it was something that was really dangerous, and you said, Swamiji, I remember once we were doing a demonstration, a headstand, and he says, "Ron, bring your feet to the floor this way." And I was very proud, and so I put my feet to the floor this way. He says, "Okay, now bring your feet to the floor the other way." I said, "Swamiji, I can't do that." He said, "Okay." And it was partly humility, partly just to see how far I would try to go. Another time I'm just walking up to the Subramanya temple, and the beautiful path through the woods. It used to be a ski hill, and we used to cut down all of the trees, and it was, I was kind of against, I don't know how many hundreds of trees I cut down while I was here, but one time I actually said no to Swamiji. We were cutting down the trees for the airport, and Swamiji came by and said, "Oh, well, the plane's going to have trouble coming in, we need to cut down more trees." I said, "Swamiji," I said, "I really don't feel like cutting the trees down." And he says, "Why not?" And I said, "Well, it hurts me to cut the tree down." And he said, "Okay." There was no, it wasn't even a question. But walking through the forest now, and you see that everything that, you say, well, this is the end, and Swamiji had a vision. Even if we were cutting down trees, the trees come back if you allow them to come back, and you have, again, in your heart, you have that connection with the Dharma that's there. At its different times, there are different needs, but everything is changing, and what is needed will be taking place. And as things go through changes, that the changes themselves are within time, and if the change is when it's supposed to happen, everything keeps its balance. And one last situation that Swamiji tried to send me to Los Angeles 3 times. I didn't want to be in big cities, and especially not Los Angeles, because I was raised in Northern California, and Los Angeles was like Sin City. It was like it was hell, you know. Everybody in Los Angeles was corrupt, and we were pure California. So Swamiji kept trying to send me back, and I kept, giving, I think one time I said, you don't want to send me to Sin City, and he looked at me and said, no, you shouldn't go there. And then finally, I had taken sannyas about 15 months after I joined staff. Everything was going very quickly. And then I got married afterwards. And asked Swamiji's blessings, and at the time Swamiji gave me his blessings, which was really, really an incredible grace. But he said on one condition, he said, you have to go to Los Angeles. So I ended up being in Los Angeles for 3 years. And just as, just opening the mind and patience and being able to, there's no shortcuts. Even if I took sannyas 15 months after I joined staff, I took TTC and then ATTC right after each other, and I was jumping into everything very quickly, but there's no shortcuts. And you just have to work through the issues that you have, and the vision that Swamiji has, again, that unity to diversity, whatever karma that you have to work through, in the time and in the place, and to allow yourself to have the Guru's grace, to have the growth that you need. This is really a blessing.
Somebody question? To be loud and clear so that everyone can...
I can speak loud, I think. So what is the difference between control and suppression of mind, emotions, tendencies, etc.?
It's a complex answer, it's not black and white. Okay? The whole idea of yoga is not to suppress both the mind and emotions, but actually to sublimate them, to bring it to a higher level, so that it doesn't matter what goes on at this level, you're not going to be upset, or emotionally or mentally. So, in other words, material things, life, vibrates a certain level, to which more or less people respond. Having material life, I tell you, stupid, we are somehow programmed to give a punch on the nose, so to speak. Okay, that's the program. Through yoga, you realize that something stupid. That's my emotion to be brought under control, and my mind has to be under control. Now, I cannot suppress the mind. Okay, it's impossible. I always give you an idea of Rambo. Okay, he could be pretty cool when he does things. He doesn't show much of emotions as he does, and that is correct. And it might appear as an emotionless person. But then if you look at the issues, they're all emotional. And that's the real emotion. He cannot stop himself to kill another person, even though he does it in a cool way. But he cannot stop himself to say, look, you have half of the world, you have half the other world, shake hands and go back home. You cannot do that. Okay. So because there's no sublimation. He sees another human being, better or worse, which he has to get rid of. Okay, that's when emotions are not suppressed, okay, but they are directed in a negative way. The idea of Bhakti Yoga, when we chant in the morning, in the evening, when we read books, when we discuss things, etc., etc., what we are trying to do is to elevate emotions into devotion. The same thing with the mind. The mind can be used to do daily things or can do positive things. So yoga, it makes you aware of it and also gives the tools how to be able to direct the mind in a higher way, higher frequency, whereby the mind is not caught with the sometimes stupidity of the daily life, but has a better look, a better understanding, a better value, a better reaction. So, but then it's a game of life. Okay, first interaction. The person has to understand that, and then start to work on it. And that takes a lifetime, not only a lifetime, several lifetimes. Because once you do that, you're saved. The real freedom is not to do what you want. The real freedom is not to think what you want. The real freedom is not to go anywhere you want. Sleep wherever you want, rest wherever you want. That's not freedom. It's only the ego telling us what to do. The real freedom is different. Tell the mind, tell the ego, tell the senses, tell the emotions what to do. That's what the majority of mankind is unthinkable. But that's the aim of Bhakti Yoga through the emotion, and the aim of Raja Yoga through the mind, to be able to sublimate, not suppress, anything we do. Supposedly, if I'm starting to say, I'm doing this talk, I have a choice for my name and fame, so that everybody thinks I'm great. Or, okay, it doesn't matter what I say, I offer it to God. That is sublimation, this spiritualization of something, which could be very material. And something very spiritual, say, God, I'll do my best. They understand or not is outside my control. In my control is to speak as clearly, as concise as possible, so that people understand. But then they truly understand or not is beyond my control. Okay. So that is sublimation of the mind, sublimation of the emotion, sublimation of the human being. But that doesn't come overnight, it takes quite a while. Does that answer your question? It takes time. First, it takes time to have an intellectual understanding. And secondly, it takes time to work on it every single moment. Okay? That's sometimes what makes yoga so difficult, because constantly you're confronted with that. What are you going to do now? What, next moment, next moment, next moment, next moment, next moment. And sometimes you give in, and that's a mistake. But then, Swami Shivananda say, every failure is a stepping stone to success. Because in our defeat, that we can create our own victories. After all, let's not forget we're human beings, okay?
Just from a Raja Yoga perspective, there's changing of vibration, and everything is on an energetic level. So when our mind is in a very negative place, this is tamasic vibration, and by the sadhana that we do, we can raise the vibration so that the mind wants something different. So there is what we want. We want things that are unhealthy when the mind is at a very low vibration. When the mind's in a higher vibration, you're very healthy, you're happy, you're not going to be wanting to go in a negative direction. So there's a changing of vibration. Meditation really is at the core of that, just changing the vibration. Also just using our discrimination to be able to see, is this leading me toward, is in the long run, is this healthy or is it unhealthy? And just to make choices. And making healthy choices based on knowledge, based on experience, is called the Pratipaksha Bhavana. And this is just changing one's attitude. The attitude is something that can be changed. So a negative attitude will always lead to negative habits. A positive attitude will lead to positive habits. So it's not repression, it's changing the energy. And changing through understanding and through raising the vibration through the yoga practice.
Yes?
I just wanted to comment that there's something in psychology
Sorry to interrupt you.
Emotional intelligence.
Would you kindly use the mic because we can't?
Oh, really? Okay. Sorry, I have a bug on you. I can try to talk louder if you want. I just wanted to comment that there's something called emotional intelligence that's more prevalent now, and you're seeing people are catching on to it, and it's found in psychology. I think it's in an intro psych course. And it's right in line with the yogic beliefs and practices. I just thought I'd mention it. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. The whole idea, if you have to understand scientific, so to understand scientific level, what we call personality or character. Each one of us has a different character. Each one of us has a different personality. This character, this personality, is determined all the time the vibratory level that we have as a human being. We call it more spiritual or more material. But actually, scientifically speaking, as the other day was here Dr. Courtney Brown, is the vibratory level that we have. Knowledge, God, anything in life, material or spiritual, it vibrates. It's nothing but sound. Science today, especially quantum physics, quantum mechanics, start to realize what the yogi said, which is compared to the dance of Shiva, having these vibration frequencies. Our frequency are very low, so we have a certain inclination for material things. The moment that we are able to elevate the vibratory level through the practice of asana, pranayama, meditation, the 5 points of Swami Vishnu, that they seem very simple, we start to see things that all the time are in front of us, but we couldn't see them because our vibratory level is very low. God is here right now, He's talking and listening, but we don't see it. Why? Because our vibratory level is very low. But through the tools and the theory of yoga, knowledge of yoga, daily we increase our vibratory level to higher frequencies, which all the time are there. Once we reach that particular frequency, we understand things we couldn't understand before. Why? Because our mind did not resonate with that particular frequency. So through the yoga, we go to higher, higher, higher frequency until we meet with a frequency called God. And that's what yoga is all about, whether it's Bhakti Yoga, Raja Yoga, Tantra Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Kundalini Yoga, all the yogas, basically, the elevated vibratory level, each individual, therefore each individual connect with the individual, and it's called self-realization. Okay, so you can understand from this point of view, it makes a lot of sense. Knowledge is there. It's like, if you want to listen to the games in its original, you can listen to CBC or CNN. But then, this is local. Now, if you want to listen to real what goes on in London, so to speak, you change the frequency, you put BBC, so you call it BBC. BBC shows you what goes on instantly, live, what goes on there. But before, we don't know, BBC was still broadcasting, but we didn't know. Until someone said, why don't you put a dish antenna and you connect with BBC so you start to see things alive. So we change the dial, we connect our frequency with the frequency which is being broadcast in London, and actually we see what is in London. But London was going on all the time. So also God is going on all the time. His vibratory level is universal. But we have our own individual vibratory level which is very low. So through the practice of yoga, you bring it higher, 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 until we see these things. We do not invent anything, believe me. Invention doesn't exist, it's a bad word. We only discover things which have been there since eternity, but we never thought about it because our vibratory level was not there. Once we reach that level, the knowledge pertinent to that particular level is revealed to us. It's not occult, it's not a bad word. It's there all the time. God is listening, God is talking. None of us see it. Why? Because our vibratory level is too low. You raise it up step by step, and then you see God. It's called self-realization, okay? In simple terms.
Satsang is the easiest way to raise the vibrational level. So again, the ashram is really an incredible gift. That just coming into the energy of the energy of the ashram, and coming to the energy of the temple, energy of people who are practicing and thinking on a higher level, actually be supporting each other, so that we're helping to raise the vibration of thought.
Also, this is very important. We live in a positive environment. Suppose in the morning I come here, I like to chant, they're stiff and self-centered. But then the person next to me started to clap the hands, and then I open the book, and then after a while I find myself clapping the hands. Yet I came with a negative intention. So the group, positive group, really affects us in a positive way all the time. Sometimes me, sometimes you, sometimes someone else. But the fact is that we end up with what we didn't like to do it because the example and because pushed or pulled by the people, by the environment, positive environment around us. Okay? So one of our teachers' trainees, sometimes they go through an experience and so harrowing, so difficult, they might take a lifetime to go there by themselves. But here, in 5 minutes, it's like a hot, burning iron in our own brain. Yet in 5 minutes it's done. Here. Outside might take a few lifetimes. Why? Because the positive environment and the support, the group support that is being given here. Okay.
Yes.
I wanted to ask you, going back to the question about the emotions, what about emotions that are old and stuck in your body, that are out of your awareness, and they affect how you think, but you're not aware of them, so you can't really, think about them.
When you take a yoga asana,
how do you release them?
when you do your yoga asana, you come for a yoga asana class, something changes inside of you. And you can feel it when you come in, your energy is on a certain level, and when you finish, energy is on another level. You may not be aware of what emotions you're working through. With the pranayama, it's the same thing. We hold our emotions in the physical body, we hold emotions in the way we breathe, and even during meditation, during chanting. Again, all of these things are changing the vibration. You don't have to be aware of all of the memories that you've forgotten, that you've suppressed. They're there. You're carrying them in your body. You're carrying them in your breath. You're carrying them in your attitude. But by practicing doing the sadhana, just doing the 5 points, doing the different yogas, you'll transform those emotions, even without being aware of them. Sometimes they'll become into your awareness when you're practicing meditation. You look at them, and as you become aware of watching your mind more as a witness, you can see them and you say, oh, this is old stuff, and you just let go of it. If it's not that, and if it's something which has been really repressed and it comes to the surface, then it may take a longer time to work through it, but at least you have the tools to work through it, and as it becomes conscious. But it doesn't have to be conscious to work through it. And in fact, most of the work that we do with yoga is not conscious.
As a matter of fact, what we are doing, maybe 10% we are conscious, maybe. 90% in yoga we're not aware of, but it's exactly actually the less we become aware, the faster we go. When we say I become aware of, who's I? It's the ego, and the ego stops everything. In reality, the guru has to work on the subconscious mind all the time, because if he works on the conscious mind says, this, I like it, I can do it, but I like to do it class 8 o'clock in the morning, but 4 o'clock, I don't like it, and you walk away. Who says, I don't like it? Just the ego. So the guru is perfectly aware of that, so they have to work on the subconscious level, okay? So the less we become conscious in yoga, sometimes better off we are. If we are a little negative, I'm conscious, the guru is telling me to do that and that, yes, but, and that's it. That's my downfall, okay? So the power of yoga, the beauty of yoga, the dhyasana, pranayama, etc., or chanting, whatever yoga we do, is the changes inside our subconscious mind that the ego is not aware of. And then one day we found, oh, that's good. The ego becomes aware in a positive way, because the subconscious mind really has done its job through the daily practice of yoga. Yes?
When we do meditation, is it we in a heart level we visualizing the idol in the heart level.
Yes.
And the breathing. Can we breathe normally, or is there any rhythmically we have to, at the same time when we visualizing the idol in the heart level and the breathing together? How that?
How does it work? Well, concentration means focusing the mind in one object at a time. You cannot put 2 feet in the same shoe for a long time, it hurts. Okay. The idea of regulating the breath is that pranayama tells us that in regulating the breath indirectly, I can regulate the mind. I cannot tell the mind directly what to do. It's very difficult, especially at the beginning. But supposedly that a mafia chief keeps my head underwater for 2 minutes. I might have had 2,000 thoughts before, but after 2 minutes I only think I want to breathe. That's called concentration. So in reducing the breathing, we reduce the mental activities, whereby meditation becomes easier. And that's the reason why, one of the reasons why the yogis went to the Himalayas, because the higher you go, you pass 4,000 feet, and there's less oxygen. When there's less oxygen, if you ever go to Gangotri, you don't want to run around too much. You want to sit, and when you sit, you feel peace. When you feel peace, you start to meditate. That's why traditionally the yogi went to the Himalayas, because it's much easier, less oxygen. So therefore the mind has less food. The mind has less food, it becomes quieter. The mind becomes quieter, meditation becomes easier. So without going to that extreme, you can regulate the breath here at the beginning. Train yourself to regulate the breath. Actually, is one of the 10 pointers of Vishnu, that you allow the air hardly to go inside the nostrils, hardly to come out. And you watch it. And then it becomes natural. And then the more you concentrate later on, the easier it becomes. But there is a very strong binomials between the breath and the mind. The more you regulate the breath, the more you regulate the mind. Okay, so, but you cannot know both at the same time is not easy. So at the beginning of this practice of meditation, the section, the first thing we do, among other things, reduce the breathing so the air hardly goes inside the nostrils, hardly comes out. And try to maintain that rhythm throughout the period of meditation. That makes it easier to control the mind. Vipassana make a big thing out of it, but you don't go to heaven because controlling your breath. But obviously, it helps quite a bit in controlling the breath to control the mind.
Again, the two are not in opposition with each other. With the breathing, it's very, very important to bring the mind to a place where you're able to have that devotional concentration. The heart is open when the breathing is slowed down like that. There's a really direct relationship with opening the heart and regulating the breath. When the heart is open with the breathing, then you can visualize on the deity much, much easier, with much more clarity.
There's also a reason why the Hindu deity, they have a lot of details. Why? It helps you to focus the mind. How does Shri Krishna air? Such and such. what kind of diamond he has on the forehead, such and such. What kind of, all the details. It's like studying the rose. You study how many petals of the rose, the color of the rose, the fragrance of the rose, how many thorns of the rose, the size of, but you keep taking the mind back to the center, back to the focus. So when you practice the deity with four arms like Durga and the tiger and this and that and that, it really helps to focus the mind in that way.
Pranam Swamiji. My question is of general nature. With reference to the comments that several lives, human lives, are short for understanding yoga as a whole. And there are no shortcuts in yoga, as you said. Nowadays, every ashram, every yoga school is promoting short-term teacher training courses. These short-term teacher training courses does not fall in the category of a shortcut to the yoga. Because without any background, when a person drops in with a particular fee payment and asks for yoga teacher training course, he is allowed. And after that short term, he is allowed to teach to the masses. Is it not a shortcut?
First of all, there are many, many different teachers training courses. And I think we go first back to how this training, our teachers training course, which from a traditional Indian perspective, it's not 12 years, it's 4 weeks.
6 before.
6, but Swamiji rounded it off at 4 weeks. And when I took mine in 1978, it was still 4 weeks. But Swamiji's vision was to really give people the foundation, that there really was not, if you want to really bring people to yoga, you give them the foundation, and you give them the practice, and really to base that 4 weeks on a practice, so that people are completely immersed in the yoga lifestyle for 4 weeks. Why are you going? People get that kind of experience, even for people to take 4 weeks in their life. Who can find 4 weeks even in this day and age, and to make that commitment to immerse themselves in yoga practice. And the yoga practice that people are doing for that 4 weeks is real yoga. And Swamiji was very, very clear on all the aspects. So whatever is traditional practices there are in yoga, he offered those on a basic level. And then he said, practice this. And to become yoga practitioners, not yoga preachers. So there was really a basis there for practice that he gave people in a basic routine of the 12 asanas, the basic pranayama. If you practice those the way that you're taught in those 4 weeks, it becomes like a boot camp. And there's a foundation of practice which is there, and the foundation of the philosophy, an introduction to Bhagavad Gita, an introduction to what the experience of pranayama, what the experience of meditation, of the experience. People are in general are initiated into mantra. So just the basic foundation of all the yoga teachings are there in that teacher's training course. It's an amazing gift. Compared to other teacher training courses, because teacher training courses have become not only very popular but very profitable, and it's very rare that you will find a teacher training course that's really based in the Hindu ethics and the Hindu philosophy. Most of the teacher training courses, in general, are based on a very physical level, And if there's any introduction to philosophy, it's only to, it's more cultural than anything else. And so I would agree with you that that the teacher's training courses, 99% of the teacher's training courses that are out there that have come after Swami Vishnu, and also remember that the teacher, Swami Vishnu, really started the teacher. There were no teacher training courses as we know them now before Swami Vishnu started them, but they were turned into a more material approach, an approach that people could be teaching asanas as physical exercise. And still a lot of the yoga has been inserted into the whole society, because people are practicing something at least. And even the little bit of yoga that people get, if some scars are there and they're awakened, they're going to want to go deeper. So even if people don't get a full yoga teacher's training course that we teach, or they don't have the full 12 years of living in a gurukula, which even in India, the yoga teaching Swamiji brought back to India. And so many people have come, how many thousands of Indians have come to take the yoga teacher's training course in Swamiji's ashram in Kerala and the other ashrams. They come there because there is the essence of yoga, it's there, and many people even lost those traditions. Swamiji used to give an example even of priests, and many of the traditions people have forgotten. Priests would start a puja, and it would be going back and forth like this with their hands, and Swamiji would smile and say they don't even understand what the reason for that. They would not understand the pranayama behind it. So there is something which is very pure. That the beauty of Swami Vishnu was he was able to hold the purity of the yoga and really to insert that into the West in a way that I don't know if anybody else has been able to do. And at the same time, to offer something much deeper. So nothing is perfect in this world, but the yoga itself, the jewel of yoga is there. We forget it. We get pieces of it back and forth, and as Krishna says in the Gita, that he taught the yoga to the sun, and that is age after age he's brought it back. We forget it, and it's brought back, and it's a great masters who bring it back to us.
One important question, if I may add, is that Swami Vishnu was very much aware, told us, even after many years, that he was teaching the teacher's training course. That's why the beginning was 6 weeks. And it starts 8 o'clock in the morning, and sometimes 4 o'clock in the afternoon, we're still talking. We were like zombies, because we couldn't absorb, the tremendous amount of knowledge, and also specific knowledge. But one thing is that he had the spirit, and that's the most important thing. He was a spiritual person. Swami Shivananda was a spiritual person, and he taught us the spirit. And of course, in 4 weeks, it's a little short, but if you open to it, the spirit comes through. Once those seeds are there, then you can go around, to give light to a candle. It takes another candle. So if you have a little light of the spirit of the teacher, Swami Vishnu, then when you go outside, technically you might not be prepared. You might not. Depends on your level of spiritual evolution. But as a person, you collect some spirit to Swami Vishnu, and you give the spirit to someone else. And that is then the most important thing. We are in Kali Yuga, the Iron Age. Nobody has time to spend 12 years in the Gurukula system. But Swami Vishnu understood and always kept repeating the same, because people ask the same question as you did. So what can you learn in 4 weeks? Technically not much. He said if you're lucky, if you take 10% away from it, but 90% will stay with you throughout your lifetime. And that's the spirit of yoga. the practice of yoga, people do not understand. The new so-called new consciousness on the world. Because through the practice of asana, in asana, they look, 5%, maybe 10% physical, 90% are beyond that, even though people call it exercise. On the yoga asana, which is the simplest, the kindergarten of yoga, 90% is beyond that, because if the ego again would recognize it, it would stop it. Through the asana, pranayama, meditation, chanting, something comes from inside. So Swami Vishnu put these seeds inside us. He broke our own coconut and put something there. Now technically, we might not be able to teach yoga as a person that comes out after 12 years from the Gurukula system. But the difference is, we might have the spirit, and he might not. And that's for me was the most important thing, the spirit that he put behind. The seeds of intuition he puts behind. And that's for 4 weeks, quite intensive, as some people can testify, are good enough to put the first seeds of spirituality. Then the rest is practice and practice. And in the end, of course, is Guru's grace or God's grace. But that's how it works. Okay. You realize, some used to tell a story. The apple seed. You take an apple seed, and literally you can crush between the 2 fingers. Okay? There's nothing there. But if you put the apple seed in the right ground, the right time, in the right place, and you follow a proper cultivation, a big apple tree will come with many apples that you replant. And actually you can cover the earth. But at the beginning it was a simple apple seed, but potentially has the power to cover the earth. So these simple teachings from Vishnu, Asana, Pranayama, etc., the 5 points, are very deceptively simple. You think, well, everybody can do asana, everybody can do pranayama, everybody can do some chanting, everybody can be vegetarian. But that's the seed, that's the spirit. In practicing them, you develop this apple seed in a big tree. And then more trees, and more apples, more, etc., etc., etc. But then becomes practice. So the Guru say, I can teach you how to eat with fork and knife or with your hands. But if I eat using my hands, you starve. So you have to start doing something yourself. So that's the sadhana that we have to do. And the sadhana looks very simple. After a while, I say, oh my God, there's much more than I thought here. And you keep practicing. But that's the spirit, not the academy that people give outside to get piece of certificate or whatever. Okay? And this was the spirit of Swami Vishnu, which is still alive. If the spirit was not there, the spirit of Swami Shivananda, Swami Vishnu, none of us would be here, guaranteed. So obviously he must have done something about it. Yeah, to speak.
Nobody's there.
I'm not this way. Right, that's it.
Is there a switch?
Does it work? Okay.
Yeah, no, it's okay.
You said before that you can't focus your mind on 2 things at once or have 2 feet in one shoe. So how are you supposed to go about your daily activities and still keep your mind one-pointed and focused?
What kind of daily activity you're talking about? If you work in a stock exchange, it's rather difficult. If you live in an ashram, it's rather easy, so it depends. It's not so black and white, okay? There was a lady, I remember, in Winnipeg years ago, that said, I've been practicing yoga for 14 years, I don't get results. And some of the friends came, yeah, you know why, Swamiji? Every night goes to a discotheque. Well, it's very difficult. So it depends in which particular atmosphere we practice yoga. In an ashram, it's more difficult, more easy. Outside in the room, it's more difficult. But also, remember one thing, it all depends on the priority that you have in life. You have to know exactly what you want. And that has to be crystal clear. 2, you got to pay a price for it. Whether you're yoga or not yoga, whether you want to become Prime Minister or a scavenger, there is a price to pay. So, 1, what do I want? 2, how much am I ready to pay? 3, you play the game of life, it's only play. 4, in the end, you get exactly what you put into it. So according to your priority, you make a choice in this life. And then, of course, any priority, you better do within a framework to which this priority belongs to. Okay? If I want to be a croupier in a casino, very difficult to play card here, but if you go in a casino down Montreal, it makes it easier for me. Okay? And vice versa. If you want to be a spiritual person, it makes it easier in a spiritual environment that is outside. So it depends on the priority that I have in my own life. What do I want to achieve?
You're asking about how can you do two things at one time in the same moment? How can you chew gum and tie your shoes at the same time?
Mr. Bush could do it.
I mean, the mind jumps very, very quickly. And there's a conscious part of the mind and there's an unconscious part of the mind. Most of it's unconscious. And in the unconscious part of the mind, there's a lot of attitude that's there. And if you're doing your karma yoga, if you're angry and your mind is thinking about what you're upset about, or if you're remembering God, you're going to have completely different experiences. But when you're doing karma yoga, you have to be totally focused on what you're doing to do it properly. But still behind that, there's a kind of an unconscious background that's there. And what we try to do is, in sadhana, is to create a background which is solid. For example, you're sitting, you have a certain posture. Are you being conscious of that posture right now? Maybe, maybe not. But the part that you're not being conscious of is something that you've developed through habit. You're breathing right now. There's a certain pattern of your breathing which is going to correspond with the attitude of your mind. If you work with your pranayama, you work with the asana, your posture is going to become much more balanced. You're going to let go of a lot of tension that you're carrying with you. You'll be able to work with emotions in a certain way with different attitudes that are sitting there behind. So even while you're doing the karma yoga, every time you come back to the karma yoga, even when you come to your asana, if you're concentrated on that asana, the asana is going to change depending on the attitude that's behind the mind and the practice that you have behind it. So everything that you do is going to contribute to the unconscious experience that you're having. And consciously, as you practice consciously, as you're more concentrated in whatever you're doing, that will also carry on to other things that you do. So everything that you do has an effect on everything else that you do, even though you do one thing at a time.
So Swamiji said, pay attention to what you do. If you eat, eat. Be focused. If you talk, talk. Whatever we do, pay attention to it. And then concentration develops very fast. But to do things at the same time is tough. Any question? Come on.
Yes. Self-realization is accepting whatever you are experiencing. Whether the mind wants something, but you are not getting what mind is asking for. But at that moment, is it making a peace with the present moment? Isn't it a way of building a character building?
I haven't been there, so it's hard to say. So listening to the saying, okay, we are incapable to live on the present, even though we think so, we can't. We haven't got the nerves, we haven't got the emotions, and we haven't got the mind. Sometimes, for a few seconds, we're able to, sometimes, within a lifetime. It's only a realized saint that there's no more past, present, and future. He lives in the eternal now. We cannot conceive because the mind either works on the present, or either works on the past. We keep going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. We can't keep the mind there still for more than 1/10 of a second. So in a realized state, it goes beyond the mind. It cannot be described. It's pure intuitional knowledge. If you confine God or eternity, if you define God or eternity, you confine it. The mind is not made, as a matter of fact, to solve the problems of the earth. Imagine the mind can understand God. God cannot be understood. He's beyond any understanding. Whatever we understand is God is not God. The scripture, beautiful Vedanta says, is Ishvara. Okay? That is our mental speculations or idea of God is. God, likely for us, is far beyond the mind. Once you reach there, you try to tell me what's all about. It's like you being from India to explain to a person what a jackfruit tastes like, Swami Vishnu used to say. You never tasted jackfruit, what are you going to tell? You can go on talking for hours. But the moment I taste the jackfruit, I have the experience, I know. But then I go back to my friend and say, look, today I tasted the jackfruit, how am I going to tell them? So self-realization is such an experience which transcends the body and the mind and everything we can know of. Okay? And so once we are there, things are complete. We won't even ask the questions. Okay? It's total complete knowledge, total complete understanding. And this and that is understatement. Okay? What's the state out there?
Yeah.
I have a question about Swami Vishnu, and sort of, it's amazing to see the community that he inspired and built. And I'm curious about what his ultimate goal and motivation was. And I guess it's sort of related to, like, is yoga an end in itself, or is it a means to an end? And what is that end? And how do we make sure that we don't become self-focused, but also engage with the program?
Yes. No, it is both a means to an end and an end. And I think that from my experience with Swami Vishnu, the purpose of his work was, Swami Shivananda sent him to the West to teach yoga, and his experience of yoga was already very deep before he came here. Already Kundalini was awakened, already he had very, very deep experiences. And from what he said himself was that he would have never come to the West. He would have never, even though he committed himself 100% and worked, more hours than we could even imagine every day to try to do that mission. If it was his own personal choice, he would have just stayed and be a yogi in Himalayas and just do his practice and just do the inner practice. But he knew that it wasn't just about the inner practice, because his own work on himself, he realized his biggest challenge was dealing with ego. He had so much energy, his will was so powerful, he could have done anything he wanted in this world. But he knew that to have the self-realization is to go beyond the ego and beyond that power. And he knew personally the power that comes from Hatha Yoga, from meditation. And he struggled with it, every day of his life, and at the end of his life, he was in a place which was really beyond that. So yoga is a means, and the goal was to realize that place which is beyond ego, beyond mind, and having a taste of it. Again, so as you said, we wouldn't be here if we didn't have little glimpses of what intuition is. But my understanding of a self-realized person is someone who's in intuition all of the time. And there's no ego that is filtering that. There's no mind that is standing in between and saying, I am this person. Everything that my mind believes I am is a creation of my mind. And the self-realized person is not limited by that. And my experience with Swami Vishnu was that every day of his life he was going to that place to remove every barrier to that experience of one totality of consciousness. And he had very, very deep experience, but also a very clear, sensitive awareness of the limitations of the mind as it appeared in himself and in others. And he knew that if we want peace in the world, the only way that we can achieve peace is to go beyond the egos which are creating conflict. And as long as two egos come to meet each other, there's always going to be conflict. It doesn't matter if they're spiritual people or they're politicians, or it's a married couple in a house trying to be at peace, live at peace with each other. Anywhere you want peace, you need to go beyond the limitations of the mind and the ego. And yoga gives us the tools to be able to do that, which is an inner experience, but it also is our experience of the world.
We asked him this question at the beginning. He said very clearly, I came to elevate the vibratory level of the West. And that's why we're sitting here. I think he did a pretty good job. If today, they say North America, 1 out of 10 people is practicing yoga. We're not discussing the type of yoga, but 1 out of 10 is doing it. But when we first came here, who knew in 1956, 57, who knew about yoga? Except maybe a few professors of anthropology that came to India, to Tibet. They knew something about it, but the majority of mankind has no idea. Now, for instance, in the next generation, we have TDC now. They're all on the 20s, 25. And for them, yoga is a matter of fact. For me, yoga, first time I heard in London, I said, what kind of nonsense talking about? While now, being vegetarian and practice yoga is more part of our social life. Why? Because someone did put some good seeds on the ground and start to germinate. We call it new consciousness. And when we first came here, there were no yogis. Then all the Babas and the Rajas and the great yogis came. But when we first came alone, in 52, nobody was here. Like the first one was Swami Vivekananda that came for a while. Then came Swami Yogananda. Number 3, the trailblazer was Swami Vishnu. And who knew yoga about 40 years ago? Imanata yoga. And now the yoga, or exercise as they call it wrongly, everybody knows. It's a household name. Who created all that? They don't see it came from Swami Vishnu. Luckily, I just saw from the beginning, when I went to Montreal, there was not one single vegetarian restaurant. Or when you travel with the airlines, you ask for a vegetarian meal, they ask you like an ET. Now, any airlines will give you, okay, vegetarian food, okay, this vegetarian. There are about 10, 15 different choices. Who created all that? They don't see. But when we are sitting here with 10 people and then we became 100,000, we train an organization more than 30,000 people now, 30,000 teachers trainings. If any one of them talks to 1,000 people of yoga in their lifetime, how many millions are we going to reach? And who did all that? Even though physically he might not be here, but spiritually he's 100% of it. That's Swami Vishnu, Swami Shivananda. Yes.
Au niveau, c'est une question assez complexe. Les prêtres catholiques, qu'est-ce qu'ils devaient faire du mot yoga? J'ai discuté avec un prêtre.
Oui, c'est vrai.
Et puis,
she said, that among the Roman Catholic priests, there is a fear about yoga. You know why? They lost the spirit, the institutions. Ils ont perdu l'esprit. Ils ont devenu des institutions. Ils ont perdu l'esprit de Jésus. Derrière, on ne comprend même pas. Quand Jésus nous a dit, Seigneur, pardonne-les parce qu'ils ne comprennent pas ce qu'ils disent. Pourquoi? Parce qu'on est tellement matériel comme aujourd'hui, que Jésus se référait lui-même à niveau intuitif. Personne, ce sont des pécheurs. Ils ne comprenaient absolument pas ce qu'il disait, Et l'Église catholique aujourd'hui, la même chose. Pourquoi? Ce sont devenus des institutions. Le vrai Saint François, ils ont compris, mais le message aujourd'hui est perdu. Ils ont devenu plutôt des institutions académiques, etc., etc. L'interprétation de la Bible, ils m'ont dit justement que maintenant le pape, il a dit que le purgatoire, ça n'existe plus, l'enfer, ça n'existe plus, etc., etc. Si ma grand-mère, votre grand-mère vous aurait dit que je ne crois pas à l'enfer, le paradis, quoi, ben, c'est parti. Aujourd'hui, c'est normal. Pourquoi? Parce qu'ils ont perdu l'esprit de Jésus. Okay? En anglais, c'est très beau. They are churchians, not Christians. Okay? Ils ont perdu l'esprit de Jésus. Voilà. C'est mon impression personnelle. Il y a toujours quelqu'un, naturellement. Des bons curés, des bons prêtres, des bons, comment ça s'appelle, sœurs, qui sont très bien, très sincères, très honnêtes. Mais la majorité de l'Église a perdu l'esprit de Jésus. Hein? No, she wants to know why.
I know, but I was saying if you talk about the ashram that you're opening in Italy, and that you've also met with the local priests, and having support and the Franciscans.
We have
I think that she has translation also.
Okay, so I just came back last night from Italy, and we opened up an ashram in Umbria, which is considered the mystical part of Italy. You know, St. Francis of Assisi, it's about 20 minutes from the ashram. St. Anthony, St. Catherine, St. John, they all came around that area. There are more monasteries there than houses. Most of them are closed. During the period of St. Francis, there was a mystical awakening in Italy, and now it's gone, it's finished. But the remnants are still there, the energy is still there. And we went to a monastery of 13th century, and the fact was 13th century because all the writing were in Latin. Latin was in Italian. And so I said, well, if you're going to buy this place here, what the local priest is going to say. So it's a city is called Norcia, and it comes a great saint, which is the patron saint of Europe, comes from that. So I said, let me talk to the priest, see what he says. And he was quite open. He said, yeah, no problem. You know, he said, look, you know, said, you're not just doing the Hatha Yoga here. The exercise, you're going to teach the philosophy, He was quite happy. Naturally, on the other side, you might have, so to speak, a not so bright person, like I read on the 29th of March, on the Daily News in New York, the chief of the, how do you call it, the person in charge of the Send the Devil Away, exorcist, of the Vatican. He said that if you read Henry Potter, or you go to a movie Henry Potter, you go to hell. And then he say, brother, peace to you, you know. Such a people is very difficult. They exist, like anything else. You have good yoga, bad yoga. Good priest, bad priest. The new generation is quite happy. Okay? The old generation is Inquisition type. Okay?
Il parlait au niveau de haut, c'est pas juste parce que lui, il est jeune, puis il vient dynamique, tout ça, mais il parlait au niveau de tout l'ensemble, au niveau religion catholique. C'est l'ensemble de tout ça, c'était pas juste.
There's a huge range in the Catholic Church, and then they're arguing with each other within the Catholic Church. There's so much change. We talk about what stays the same and what changes. If something doesn't change, and if the mind doesn't open, then it will die. And the Catholic Church has parts within it that are very much alive and parts that are not. And fear is something which kills everything. And if the priests are afraid, they're trying to hold the power, they're trying to hold the control, they lose the spirit. And if they open up to see that it is the same spirit, then they have something. Then that seed itself will blossom. So it really is a choice on. We all have that choice. Just one story was we have a priest that Swami Vishnu brought, the Hindu priest that Swami Vishnu brought to the West, Swami Vishishananda. It was the first priest that came. Actually, was the first priest here for the Subramanya temple. And he was telling a story where he was brought up in a Catholic school. And in that Catholic school, he would come in every morning, he would be late, and the priest who was teaching the class came and asked him, so why are you late? You know, you shouldn't, you know, you need to be here on time. And Swami Vishista was a young boy, said, well, I have to do he was brought up as a Brahmin priest. So in the Brahmin family, the children have to they have their duty, they have to do the worship and practice the worship. So he was doing the puja in the morning before he came to class, and he would be late. And when he told the priest that he was going to be, that was why he was late, the priest said, please, it's fine. And this is more important. You have to honor your tradition. And he recognized that his way of worshiping God was as valuable as the Mass, and that his intention was good, and he had that vision, that unity in diversity. And there are many priests that have that type of vision, and they can give a very good name to Christianity and to the Catholic Church. And there's other people who have fear, and the fear itself keeps them from really being Christian. And we're all going through what we have to go through, and the Church is part of that.
Remember what he said, and they have the tendency to forget. Love thy neighbor as your own self. If you see this Atman, the spirit, Lam, there's no need for fear. But also it represents certain fanaticism, which you find in all the religions. Okay? There are particular people that they hide between that particular church. So within that church or that religion is not good. No. Those people, unfortunately, whether it's a priest or a Swami or a rabbi or a mullah, they use the religion for their own personal feeling because their understanding is very limited. So at that time, try to understand, pray for them, and continue walking your own path. That's what you can do. Like I'm not going to discuss with a fellow, say, if you see a movie, Harry Potter, and you study Harry Potter, you go to hell. Okay, God bless you, thank you very much, and bye-bye. That's what you can do.
Yes.
I just want to know, could you tell us a little more about the ashram you're opening in Umbra? It sounded very interesting to hear about it. Please.
Well, it's a beautiful place, actually. It's probably a gift for Swami Vishnu, no doubt. It's a borderline between Tuscany and Umbria. It's very soft here, it's very beautiful. He used to be the owner. The name is Mr. Catenacci, which in Italian means padlock. And he's a real padlock. You have to find him. He built it as a refuge or nursing home for people, elderly people having Alzheimer, whatever. But then, unfortunately for him, the city hall built such similar building close to the city. So he got stuck. It's on the hill, like here, even higher. It's a beautiful location. It's brand new. For 6-7 years was not on the market. Nobody could buy it because there's no need to buy it. It cannot be an hotel. It cannot be in Italy called agrotourism, which means farmers that in order to implement their own income, they rent rooms of their own house during the weekend and for the season. Sometimes they need a swimming pool, etc., etc. There are about 5,000 around there. So he got stuck with it. And then finally, we brought it down to a reasonable price for us. And now it will take a certain amount of time before we do the due diligence. Due diligence is we have to find out to whom is the ownership, the righteous owner. And then we have to constitute a constitution for us according to Italian law. And then get some money from the bank. And then we hope that by January will be open. But it's a beautiful place. It's a location. It's Assisi. It's about 30 minutes. Okay. Siena is next door. Florence is about an hour and a half. Rome is about 2 hours. So it's on the heart of the whole thing. Okay. And it's very hilly, beautiful, rolling. Thing in the morning, in the evening. It's amazing. You never get tired to look around. Very beautiful. Climate is beautiful. The food is first class there. They still have a lot of biology, organic food, okay, all around. Most of the big houses or farms, they have solar panels. The only thing we have to be careful that if you have some kind of fanatic priest, that that's the heart. Okay, Umbria is the mystical part of Italy, like Tuscany or Florence is the intellectual part. So we have to deal with the other side. Anyway, God bless them. We're open to receive everybody. I thought we put a nice portrait of St. Francis, nice portrait of Christ, and portraits of Mary, and it's one and the same for everybody. That's all there is. One will be ready, will be on the website. Okay.
All right. Who does this man remind you of with one of our founders?
Swami Srinivasan.
Yeah! That's Swami Srinivasan. That's who he is. Is it something? Wow. And do you know what? It's his 40th birthday today.
Oh, so happy birthday. Happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you, happy birthday, happy birthday to you. Okay, many happy returns. So we conclude now, if you don't mind, it's 3:30, and we'll continue tomorrow anyway at 2 o'clock. Also, Swami Swarupananda from Bahamas will be here, so that he has some more questions. If not, we choose a theme and then we try to develop. Okay? So we say the final prayer, and then you can go for your asana class. Okay? Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Peace Peace Peace. Om Bolo Sakura Shivananda Maharaj Ki Jai. Om Bolo Swami Vishnu-devananda Maharaj Ki Jai. Om Tat Sat. Thank you very much. Thank you.